Sarah from Sarah Loves to Sew here, and I'm going to show you how to make this month's project for my beginner sewing boxes. Now they're called beginner sewing boxes, but a lot of my members have been with me since they've begun, and I try and design and create a new project every month that will teach you new skills, and it's exciting to make. So really the level, I take about 2 hours. So really I think they should be called sort of quick sewing projects rather than beginner, because you're probably no longer a beginner now if you've been doing all my projects. This one I'm really excited about. It's something that I've wanted to make for quite a while for one of the projects, and here it is. It is the lovely Bumbag, or fanny pack if you're watching in America. So these are just super useful, super cool bags. You can put whatever you want in it. You can wear it in your sewing room and have all your sewing supplies in there, or you can take it out if you're a dog walker and put all your dog walking paraphernalia in there, you know, your poo bags and your treats and your phone, whatever you take, or just take it out for a night out or a day out. It has this gorgeous print on it, and you'll have the adjustable belt. So I've created this with a strap that is long enough for you to be able to wear it crossbody like this, or on the back, or on your actual round your waist. So this is the Bumbag project. You can buy the kits on sarahlovestosew.co.uk. I'll see if I can put a downloadable PDF pattern on my website as well, so if you want to use some of the fabric from your own stash. The Bumbag is lined, so you can see that there's no raw edges, it's lined, and it's got this lovely little pull zip as well, zip pull on it. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is to get all our pieces together. So cut out the paper templates and then cut out the shapes from the main fabric, the lining fabric, and the interfacing. So if you want, you can iron the interfacing onto the lining before you cut it out, or you can cut them out individually and then iron them on. So the main thing is that the lining will be slightly sturdier and stronger with the interfacing on. So that's the first step that you need to do. After that, you need to then mark up the centre marks using your template. Mark up where the centre points are on all of the pieces. So that's the lining and the main fabric. So I'm just going to get those pieces and actually mark up the centres on them. Also, I find it handy to do this with a zip. So with the black zip, you might need to use one of these chalk pens or a tailor's chalk and just measure the centre and make a little mark. And that makes putting the Bumbag together much, much easier if we've got these centre marks. The other thing you're going to need to do is to mark out the darts as well. So I'll just get my templates and do that. Once you've marked the darts on both of the fronts, we're going to now sew these darts. So you want to fold the fabric so that the peak of the dart is in the middle. So to do this, we're just going to line up the two sides there. Make sure it's in the middle, and then just put a pin. Get a smaller pin. Just put a pin on that peak there. Okay, and do that with all the darts. So you're going to fold. It's difficult to see the pen on this fabric. Done pink. So the point needs to be in the middle. And then what you're going to do is sew along the curved line, so that when it's opened up, you're turning a flat 2D piece into the curved shape for the bottom of the bag. So it will end up, I'll get the bag to show you, like this. That's what we're aiming for. So if you do that on the darts on the front piece and also on the lining, so it's same principle. So this is the lining with the interface attached to it. Just make sure that little point is on the middle, and then exactly the same, you will just sew along the curved lines with a straight stitch. So I've put the thread on the machine, so you've got the bobbing and the top of the same colour by winding the bobbin up. I'm going to use straight stitch and 2.5, and I'm just going to start on the corner right on that little peak, a little bit in front of it, and so straight stitch forward and then back tack to secure it and follow the curve. Oops, I seem to have got that thread a little bit caught there. And back tack again. So you're going to do this with all 4 of the darts. And then the next step is just to trim away this excess fabric here. So still attached there. So then once you've cut the darts, just trim, leaving about 1/8 of an inch, and that will just reduce the bulk when we come to put the lining and the bag together. So now you've got a lovely shaped dart in that corner. So do that with all 4 darts, trimming them all. Okay. So once you've sewn and trimmed the darts, the next thing to do is just to press them. So press the lining ones facing in, and then press the ones on the main fabric facing out, and this will just reduce the bulk when they come together. So we can put the lining aside, get your zip and mark up the centre point with the centre point on your fabric. So I'm going to have it with the zip going from the right to the left. So I've got the zip pull on that side, put the zip face down, line up the marks, the centre marks, and just pin that in place. And then you can temporarily pin that zip on there before we bring the lining back. And this time we're going to place the lining face down on top. Again, lining up the top edges and the centre marks of both fabrics and the zip. And then we're going to pin that in place. So you can do this in 2 steps. You can just sew along there and then come back and sew this on. However, I just save a bit of time and sew them together. So you're just going to line them up, and this will be attaching the zip to the front of your bum bag or cross body sort of sling bag. It can be as well, depending on how long you make your strap, which we'll do later. So you just pin that in place all the way along, and then we will take it to the sewing machine. Now you'll need a zipper foot on your machine to sew a zip, basically because when you're sewing alongside a zip, you've obviously got the bulk of the zip on one side, so the presser foot can't lie nice and flat. So a zipper foot is a presser foot with one sort of side of the fork missing, really. You can get zipper foots that have both sides missing, and you just switch from left to right like mine. I'll just show you what I mean. So this is my zipper foot, and I can either have it with a zip on this side or that side, and that's in contrast to, let me just take it off my machine, that's my normal presser foot. So where this normally holds the fabric down either side of the needle and sews like that, this one just will hold it down on one side along the zip. So you need a zipper foot. They usually come with your machine, so if you've never used one before, check all the little things that came with your machine, and if you don't have one, they are available to buy. You just check the model the make and model of your machine and get ones that fit. Mine are just very quick to attach. So we'll take that to the machine. Okay, so it's just over this, the width of this is just over 1/4 inch for me. So I'm just going to use that as my guide. Carefully remove the pins, and then I'm going to start a little bit away from the edge and then go back. So I put my needle in, always wind your button on the right towards you. I'm going to go back first and then forward, and just try and keep sewing along that straight line. And the zipper foot, well, the zipper won't allow you, or the zip won't allow you to go over the zip. So you're just trying to get a straight line along the other side. Now as you come towards the end, stop a good couple of inches away. Make sure the needle's in, but if you lift the presser foot, you'll be able to then just get your hand inside and swivel the zip so it's horizontal rather than vertical, and just start to unzip it so that when we come to sew the end, our needle's not pushed around, so it's a nice straight line. So this bit can be quite fiddly, especially if you're really sort of close up to the zip. But there we go. So I've just pushed the zipper further down so it's out of the way of the presser foot for this last section. Check them all still lined up. And go back a couple of times just to secure it. Okay, so I've just snipped the threads either end, and you can just check that's sewn okay there. So the lining and the front are now attached. So gently just pull it away from the zip, like so. We will top stitch this a little later, which will just mean that the fabric won't get in the way of the zip. But that's all looking good for the first one. Okay, so it's really useful at this point to press this fabric, the lining and the main fabric, away from the zip. So if you've got a pressing hand, this is really useful for this kind of work. So you can, just because it's on a slight sort of curve, you can just gently pull it away and press it, making sure you don't melt the actual plastic zip with your iron. So you just pull it down and then give it a little press so it's nice and neat. And this just really helps it as well when it's the finished thing. So as you can see on this one that I made, it will be top stitched at the end, but we'll attach the zip first. Oh, sorry, you can see is my hand. Okay, do that, and then you can turn it round and press the other side as well. Okay, so now that we've pressed that nicely on both sides, we're going to start sewing the zip to the top. So you need your top piece of the main fabric, and you want to put it right sides down on top of the right side up of the main fabric. And you first of all start lining up the center of the zip and that top piece. So you can see we've got the curved edge along the top, because that is going to be this is the top piece and this is the curved edge alongside the zip. So we just pin in the first bit, and then we're going to curve the bag, the zip, around as we pin the edges together. So we're lining up the top of the curved edge with the top of the zip, and we just have to keep bending it and do the pins quite close together. I think that's probably the best tip I can give you to do this, because if you do it if the pins are too far apart, then you get some bagginess because of the angle. You need to pin at regular intervals there, and as you come up towards the bottom, towards the end of the zip, just keep pinning as far as you can, and then we need to try and get this lined up, and it should start matching that line there. So we need to just make sure we get that pin in place so that we can pull it all the way around, like so. Can you see that? It's a bit fiddly, but you just need to hold it tight with the pins, making sure the edges are still lined up there. Just readjust that one a little bit. That's the one. So obviously the neater you pin it, the neater you'll be able to sew it. I'm going for a big pin along here. Okay, and then back to this side and do exactly the same. Pins are amazing. What would we do without pins? Just would not get the same finish. Okay. So just keep curving it round and try and come. Now don't worry if it's not to the end of the zip, because the zip will keep on going a little bit. Just pin it as far as you can go. Because we will actually be cutting the zip ends off in the next step. So there we've got it pinned all the way along, ready to sew. So when we're sewing it, we'll be sewing along the curve, just in the same way that we sewed the zip on the other side. So it's the same, about 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and you just take your time as you sew along the curve, making sure you're not getting any of the lining or the other side of the zip attached. So we'll take that to the machine and sew it now. Okay, so just sewing the zip. I've just started in the same way, and I was sewing 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and you just very carefully sew around the curve, taking the pins out as you go and making sure you're just sewing those 3 pieces together. So the little sandwich of the top, the zip, oh no, it's just the top and the zip, so nothing sandwiched actually on this side yet, because we'll do the lining separate. Just try and sew a nice straight line. If I went a bit wayward there. And we'll do what we did when we come towards the end, where we've got that bulk of the zip pull. We will open the zip just to get rid of the zip pull. So make sure the needle's in, press the foot up, and if you can, I'll just have to undo this pin to get to my zip. So we're going to unzip it and just push the slider down past the needle, and then have to remember where that bit was. So that's lining up with the edge of the zip. So press footer back, go around the corner, mind your fingers, and then back and forth just to secure it there. So there we go, snip the threads, and that one is done. So we've now attached the top to the zip. So we'll go on and do the lining. So once you've sewn that top zip on, we're going to do the lining. So close the zip and turn the bag the other way this time, so the lining is on the outside. Right, this time we're going to sew the lining piece, curved edges along the top, with the right sides together along this zip. So we're going to do exactly the same with the middle of the front top lining piece. Sorry, we're going to align it with the front middle of the zip. So just match those marks, and this time we are sandwiching the zip in between. So you want to pin that all the way along as we did for the front piece, just curving the bag around to get that nice lined up edge at the top, and keep going all the way around. And then once you've done it all the way along the edge, we'll take that to the sewing machine and sew that in exactly the same way as we did with the front. So try and bring that around a bit, pin it in place. Okay, so we repeat what we did for the front on this one. We've stitched along there. Next thing to do is turn it around, and this time we're going to be pulling the fabric and pressing it away from the zip along the top. So if you do have a pressing ham, these are really handy, and you just pull it away and press all the way on the top and on the underside, and then we can top stitch along the zip just to keep it away from the edge. So I'm going to top stitch with the main fabric on the top so I can see where I'm going, and we'll just do that quite close to the edge, and that will keep that from getting caught in the zip. So we'll just go and do that on the machine. Replace my presser foot with the normal presser foot, and I'm just going to back tack a little bit there to start us off, and I'm just going to get rid of this thread that keeps getting in the way. Pull that to the side and then go forward. So you want to make sure that your pressed fabric is nice and flat underneath, so you can have the lining and the main fabric. And this is called top stitching. You can top stitch with a slightly bigger stitch of 3.5 stitch length, and then don't forget to change it back again when you're doing the seams. So we're just going to get that in place, pulling it nice and flat around the curves as we go. And when you come towards the end of the zip, if it's going to get in the way, you'll need to do the unzip trick. I'm going to see how far I can get without hitting the zip. I should move it because it's just getting in the way there. And just back tack at the end. So do that for all down the other side of the zip as well. So now we've top stitched that along there, we're now going to trim the zips so that it lies flush with the fabric. So when you're doing this, you've obviously got to then be careful not to, can't find my scissors, there they are, not to open the zip, or else the zip pull will just fly off the end. So we're just going to trim that zip and then we will sew across there in a moment. So for this side, I like to clip this in place before I open the zip, and then we're going to sew across to keep this secure. So you just need to open the zip a little bit, keep them as lined up together as you can, and then we're just going to sew back and forth a few times to secure that. I'm going to sew back and forth across the end of the zip with it as closed as we possibly can get it. So it's just go very carefully with this, because obviously you're sewing through the plastic zip. You don't want to go onto the fabric of the bag. So just go back and forth, and that will prevent the zip coming off that end. Once you've done that, you can then trim the rest of the zip off. So we will just take the scissors and trim it. I'm going to trim the lining here as well a little bit, just to get it all a bit neater. Okay, like so. Okay, so once we've trimmed the zip and secured it on that end, place the bag face up and get the fabric side pieces. So these are the side pieces, and they've got a pointy end at the bottom and a curved end at the top, and they need to be like that. That's how they're going to go onto the bag. So the first thing that we need to do is to line up the pointy ends at the bottom. So we'll start on this side, and you can see the shape should match with the shape of the corner there. So line it up with the main fabric and pin in place. If your lining is a little bit extra, just trim that off. So you want to start pinning it with that point on the side, so it's right sides together, and this curve just curves around with the fabric there. So just pin that in place, and then do the same on the other side. Once you've done that, I'm just going to trim this lining so it is a little bit neater. And then you want to get the lining piece of the same side, so it will be right sides together, so make sure you've got the right one with the point at the bottom, and again line up that corner, bottom corner, with the point and pin. So you're sandwiching all the layers together. Pin that in place. So I'm taking out the pins as I go on this side, and these will basically create the side of the bag, and as you can see, it keeps in all the zip as well, so that there's no way that zip can come off there. So just go around the corner with the fabric in the same way we did for the front and pin that in place. Okay, so we're going to be sewing from the point in a straight line down to here. So we're not going to follow the curve, it'll literally be straight line from the point, just in a straight line. Okay, so we're going to take that to the machine and sew, and then we're going to repeat it on the other side. So let's go and sew this one first. Just line the needle up with the point, and I'm going to go back a few stitches first, and then just keep that line all the way. If you rather, you can draw a line before you start sewing. Now this zip is going to be in the way here, so I'm just going to slide it open a little bit more so that it doesn't cause a problem. So just stay on that line. You're going over the zip now, so just take care. And then all the way and back tuck. And then you can see that's sewn on both sides. Now you want to do the same over on the other side. So repeat the process for the other side. So once those have both been sewn in place, you need to flip them the right way round and press them so that they are nice and smooth, pressed away from the seam on both sides, ready to be top stitched. So do the same on this side. Just pull the fabric away from the seam and press. Same on that side. Okay, right, we're now going to top stitch down here on both sides, so we'll take that to the machine to do that. So we're now going to top stitch, so I'm going to use 3.5 stitch length, and we're going to do it half an inch from the edge there. So just straight down. You've pressed the sides so they'll both be lying flat, top and bottom. And do this for both sides, this one and that side. So the next thing that you need to do is to get the webbing, and you want to cut 6 inches off the end, and you can seal the ends of this by using something like this, fray check, or if you're really careful and you're an adult or you've got adult supervision, just gently hold it over the flame of a match until it seals, and that will just stop it starting to fray. So once you've got your 6 inches of the strap, pick up the side quick release clasp. Now you want to have this so that the top is facing up, so that's this rigid, the column in the center with the ridges on need to be facing up. And then with the 6-inch strap, you want to feed the webbing from the top downwards and then overlap it by about half an inch to an inch and just pin in place. Okay, now the second bit that you need to do is to measure your waist and cut the rest of the webbing the same measurement as your waist. This time this is going to go into the other side of the clip, so we are going to insert it from the wrong side on the left hole to start with, bring it up there, and then you're going to go back down on the right side like so. And then the next thing you're going to need is your tri-glide. So this has got ridges on the underneath, or it's also got the centre bar with ridges on the top. Hold it that way, and then with the webbing you want to just thread it up. Oh, bear me 1 second. Thread it up, up from the wrong side of the clasp into the first hole, and then down into the right hand one. And then you're going to flip the clasp and just shorten it to it's about ½ inch or an inch over, so ½ inch from there, inch from there, and then we're going to pin that in place, and then we're going to sew it on the machine up and down several times, and that will lay flat on there. So we're going to take that to the machine and just sew it so it's nice and secure. So I've just sewn that using the black reel in the kit so that it's nicely camouflaged and you can't see the thread, and then that's all sewn. So I've just done a straight line back and forth. So after you've sewn the tri-glide on, go and sew up and down on the short piece as well. Okay, so we've sewn on the shorter strap on that side as well, and the tri-glide secured. So now you take the long strap and just fold it up the right side of the tri and then down the left. And then you can see if this is going to be the right measurement for you. So you can do this easily by just taking the bum bag that you've made so far and pinning in place the straps. So I leave about ½ inch and just pin one side in place. Oops, I've got that on inside out. And then if you do need to alter the strap, you can then do it before you sew it. So I'm leaving mine so that it fits me round my waist when the tri-glide has been pushed to its absolute minimum, so that I've got an option of using it as a crossbody when it's at its full length. Now, if you're not keen on wearing it as a crossbody and you just want it as a waist, then you might want to shorten, just trim a couple of inches off the end before you sew it on. But try it on round your waist, see if you like the size of the strap, and if so, then we can carry on to the next strap. When you're trying on, be careful you don't pin yourself with the pins, obviously, because they're just there on both sides. Next thing we're going to do is place the straps face down, so the right side's face down on the main bag. We're going to centre the straps on the edge. So pin that in place, lining up the edge of the strap with the edge of the bag, and do exactly the same on the other side. So again, make sure that the face is down and we're centering it on the side so it's in the middle and that they line up. And then we're going to baste these in place about 3/8 of an inch from the side. So we're going to use a bigger stitch. I'm going to use a 3.5 or 4 size stitch length along there. So do that for both sides. Now we're going to sew the back onto it. So get the back piece with a straight edge along the top and match up the centres with the centre of the bag. So you're just going to push the bag the wrong way round, put the straps in for now, and then line up your centre piece on the back with the rest of the bag and pin through all the layers. And then you're going to pin all the way along the top, lining up the layers of fabric as we go. Pin around here, encompassing the strap, and at this point just make sure that the zip is open enough for you to get your hand through, because we're going to sew all the way around, which means we won't have a turning to get through if that zip is closed. So you just continue, tuck the straps inside as if you're making a big pasty, and just keep pinning all the way around, making sure you've got all the layers of the bag. And then we're going to sew it. So just keep going around, pinning until you've gone all the way around and you're back at the beginning. So once you've sewn that one on, you then turn the bag over and flatten it out so you can fit the lining back piece on. So again, you centre up, match the centres, and then go around in the same way, pinning as you go, pinning all the layers through, making sure that you're not sewing onto the bag, so it's just those layers. And this time we're going to leave a small gap to turn it the right way round, so we won't be sewing all the way around. So if you leave a good 4 inches along this side here, might want to mark it just so it stops you from sewing, just so you've got enough to get your hand in and pull it out the right way. So once you've pinned it, take it to the machine and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around with that gap open. Back tack either side to secure it. I've sewn all the way around the edge, and then you just need to clip these corners to make turning it round easier, and then turn it the right way round. So this is a little bit of a struggle, but you can do it. A little bit of wriggling, turn it all the way round until you've got the lining, and then you can sew up the gap. So this is the gap that we need to sew up. So just fold those in and sew up that gap. Pin it in place. So I like to hand sew these gaps closed. It's quite a bit of fabric to get through there, but if you want, you could do a little straight line on the machine. So once that's sewn, you can then turn the bag the right way round. So here we have it. I've sewn up the lining hole and turned it the right way round. You just press everything into the corners. You can use a little tool to help you get those corners out, and then you just need to finish off by tying a little bow on the zip pull or a knot, and then trimming them, and then do the same as you did for the webbing, a bit of fray check on the end, or very carefully just melt it with a match. And there you have it, your lovely bum bag / crossbody bag. Well done.
We're gonna keep it low key, keep it softly spoken, with no strings tying you to me. I'm happy in your company with no emotion, 'cause my love deserves to be free. I never wanna look at a house in the garden, I never wanna lock you down.